This September 2nd marked 3 months since the disappearance of Cecilia Strzyzowski. For those who are not familiar with the case, I made a video about it in early July to try to explain everything that had happened up to that point. I provided information about who Cecilia was, her environment, and the characteristics of her disappearance, as is. The problem is that as soon as I uploaded that 1-hour video, it was already outdated. There was information every 5 every 2 hours. Therefore, for this video, I decided to wait a little longer to be able to give you more information, to be able to clarify some things. Today, we are going to review a bit of what the crime was and at what point we are right now. Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Once again, up there on the screen, you can see the rest of my cases. My social network links are below if you'd like to follow me on any platform. And without anything else to say, let's get started. Cecilia Strzyzowski was last seen at 9:16 on Friday, June 2nd this year, 2023. Caught on a surveillance camera entering her in-laws' house accompanied by her husband Cesar Sena at the address Santa Maria de Oro, 1460, in Resistencia, Chaco, Argentina. Cecilia told her mother she planned to travel to Ushuaia with her partner, Cesar Sena, due to an alleged job opportunity, which was later confirmed by Cecilia's psychologist. At that time, she was wearing light gray pants, a dark jacket, and gray sneakers with pink details. For his part, Cesar Sena was carrying a red backpack that was partially empty, which was a bit strange. When asked at that time, after Cecilia disappeared, the reason for his scant luggage, he seemed quite nervous and replied that his idea was to buy clothes on the spot. In Ushuaia, therefore, he didn't have to carry so many things from Chaco. It's worth noting that in Resistencia, the average temperature in June is 15 degrees, while in Ushuaia, it's 2. The plan was to fly to Buenos Aires that Friday and then travel to Ushuaia. When the day came, both of them left in a white Toyota Hilux truck, but since then, nothing more was known about Cecilia. That is, supposedly, she had left in the truck with Cesar. Later, we discovered it wasn't actually like that, and that she never ever left the house she was seen entering the day before. Despite Cecilia's family's attempts to communicate with her, they only received text messages in which she allegedly claimed that her cell phone had broken. However, the most concerning part was when they requested a voice message or call to verify her well-being. And in return, they received an old audio in which clearly nothing was confirmed, and that ended up raising many suspicions. In itself, we already saw the messages in the previous video, and it was very, very strange from the start. It's very clear to us that the person who was writing was not Cecilia. So Cecilia's aunt, Mercedes, got in touch with Cesar, who told her that they were in Ushuaia with Cecilia. There was a back and forth of messages that caught the family's attention a lot. And in fact, they caught Cesar directly lying and finally saying that Cecilia had gone with someone else. They called the police and they soon realized that Cecilia's cell phone had last been located in a field near the Tres Orquietas area near Resistencia. Trying to get to the bottom of the matter, the investigators could not find evidence to support the existence of the supposed trip to Ushuaia. This led to suspicions that the Senas may have deceived both Cecilia and her mother, Gloria Romero, about this. Since June 6th, the date the disappearance was known, the prosecutor's office immediately activated the protocol for searching for people and for femicide. Several police divisions and departments quickly got involved, as well as reports were requested from WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook telecommunication companies. For a better understanding of this topic, please refer to my previous video where I explained it in more detail. Much more about it. When Cesar Sena on June 6th appears on camera, he can be seen with scratches on his neck. That already gave us a clue that something very strange had happened. In addition, these scratches, as they were made, seemed at first glance, seemed like those made by a person trying to defend themselves from another. After his statement as a witness, many problems were found. There were contradictions in what he was saying, things that made the investigators directly suspect him. Therefore, from this, an inspection of his house could be carried out. Rather, Lucina's residence was raided, the last place where Cecilia had been seen. And there, several suspicious objects were found. Among them, a butcher's saw, a machete, ammunition, bloodstains, and bone remains. According to genetic analysis, it was confirmed that the blood found belonged to Cecilia, but as for the bones, it was not possible to determine sex, age, or cause of death because they were multi-fragmented and calcined. The Special Prosecution Team's main hypothesis is that Cecilia would have been a victim of femicide at the hands of her partner, Cesar Sena, who was charged with triple aggravated homicide due to the relationship, due to the premeditated participation of 2 or more people and for having been carried out in a context of gender violence. As for Veneziano, Sena, and Marcela Acuna, their parents are charged as necessary participants in aggravated homicide due to the premeditated participation of 2 or more people. In late June and early July, the prosecutor's office charged 7 people. Let's remember, before we continue, who they will be and what they were accused of. Cesar Sena, Cecilia's partner, was accused of homicide. Everything I explained was planned by multiple people. Given this context, could it be related to gender violence? Emerenciano Sena and Marcela Acuna, parents of Cesar, were accused of aggravated homicide for their participation in the premeditation, with 2 people as co-authors. Then there's Gustavo Melgarejo, who worked for the Sena couple as a caretaker, who was accused of aggravated concealment, accusing him of being a second-degree accomplice. And his partner, Griselda, was also accused of the same charges. Then we have Fabiana Gonzalez, Marcela Acuna's right hand, accused of aggravated homicide as a necessary participant. And finally, we have Gustavo Obregon, partner of Fernanda Gonzalez. He is accused of aggravated homicide for having planned it with 2 or more people as a secondary participant. According to a chat that was found later, Marcela Acuna, the mother of Cesar Sena, had sent Gustavo Obregon, the marriage assistant, a very incriminating message. It said, "Go check the house, it seems there is a body, and I'm scared because I saw Cesar hurt. We are about to leave with Emerenciano, we are going to the neighborhood." The woman wrote this that same Friday, June 2nd, around 5 in the afternoon. It seems then that Cecilia had been murdered at least 4 hours ago. According to the prosecutor's resolution, the young woman would have been murdered between 12 and 13 and 13 and 1 that day in one of the rooms of the house, allegedly due to strangulation during a moment when she was with Cesar Emerenciano and Acuna. According to the investigation, the body was apparently moved by Obregon, who was working with the Sena family and was arrested on suspicion of covering up the crime. The body, wrapped in a blanket, however you want to call it, was reportedly transported in a Toyota Hilux truck to the Pasina installation, or the slaughterhouse as we know it, of the main accused, where it was finally incinerated. Lastly, his remains were reportedly scattered in various areas, including a location near one of the banks of the Tragadero River, which borders this installation. This pig slaughterhouse, as we know it, owned by the Senas. Considering the context, and for those who may not recall all the details of what transpired, let's see what are the news that happened in these last months, chronologically or as orderly as possible. To do this, we have to go to the last days of the month of June, specifically to June 24th. When the National Gendarmerie conducted a second search in the house of the Sena clan, in that new search they found traces of blood inside the house. Blood stains were discovered on a mattress and furniture piece, in addition to the wooden structure of the bed, the grill, and different areas of the house. Like there was blood on the floor of one of the rooms. It wasn't the only discovery. In the house, the gendarmerie found traces of a backpack and wallet that had been burned. This news, in fact, came out once the blood was compared with Cecilia's family, resulting in the blood being a match. 99.99% match with the victim's DNA. And before we move on, let's focus on this detail of the blood found on the furniture. On June 6th, a month before and 4 days prior to the disappearance and murder of Cecilia, the Sena family tried to get rid of those same pieces of furniture by donating them to some low-income neighbors who were about to have a new baby. When the first search of the house was conducted in June, the investigators were struck by the absence of certain pieces of furniture in the house. So they checked the cameras looking for some explanation as to why some pieces of furniture had suddenly disappeared. And they found out that on the 6th of that month, a moving truck parked at the door of the scene to load a mattress, a chest of drawers, and a bedside table that were taken to the neighbor's house. It is thanks to these recordings that the police were able to identify the driver of the moving truck. And thanks to this, the address where the furniture in question had been taken. And these be able to recover them to carry out the expertises that gave the results I was telling you about earlier. If it weren't for that, we might not know everything we know today. Clearly, it had not been an innocent donation, but an attempt to get rid of evidence, to hide what had happened in that house. As for the rest of the evidence found in the family home's yard, there were pieces of incinerated fabric and traces of a wallet that could be confirmed. They belonged to Cecilia, especially because inside this wallet there were credit cards in her name and a sube, which is a transportation card in Argentina used in some provinces, especially in Buenos Aires, which is the place where Cecilia believed she was going to go that week with Cesar. Remember that they were supposedly coming down from Chaco to Buenos Aires, and then they were going to Ushuaia and further south. She innocently thought that she was going to need that card, and that was exactly what she found there. Again, the evidence pointed to the Sena family voluntarily trying to get rid of Cecilia's things. The same day that the forensic report is published, Marcela Acuña, Cesar's mother, sends a public letter to the press in which she basically blames her son for Cecilia's murder. In an attempt to defend his innocence, he said one thing is the fact of Cecilia's femicide, reprehensible from every point of view, and another thing is wanting to blame us. From a prosecutor's office that without evidence not only has us locked up parading us around like trophies with handcuffs like criminals, but also involves us in a case with a label that does not hold up towards us, with evidence, only with assumption. Because if my son Cesar is responsible, they incriminate us. The letter is an attempt to say that there were political reasons for which they were locked up, that there is political persecution, and what is true is that in this country there is political persecution. Perhaps we could discuss this in a different context. But the reality is that in this particular case, from the beginning there were cameras, messages, calls, records of all kinds that proved that Emerenciano and Acuña knew what was going on, or at least they were aware. At least they were involved in the crime. So, is this letter more of a disrespect to the people who really suffered political persecution? And while, of course, there were politicians and journalists who took advantage of the political party these people were part of, evidence from the start suggested they were involved, even if minimally. It was not insignificant. It's not that they were being accused without evidence, but that the evidence was still being investigated. Let's say the weeks following this were precisely a test that all of this was not something without foundations. The situation for Cesar's parents became very complicated. First, the images recorded by the security cameras on June 2nd were made public. In this, you can see how at 9:15, Cecilia arrives at the house located at 1465 Santa Maria de Oro Street. From there, she is not seen leaving, which in a way supported the prosecutor's theory that she lost her life there and never left the house again. Those recordings show the movements of the 3 members of the Sena family. In addition to the security recordings of the house, on July 12th, new images were released, this time of Cesar and Marcela Acuña, at a technology store in a shopping mall in Chaco, where they bought a new cell phone, specifically a Samsung S20 Fan Edition 20F. The images correspond to the same day that Cecilia's mother reported her disappearance. The prosecution and investigators believed that the purpose of this purchase was to get rid of the phones that had been used up to that point and thus eliminate all evidence. The next developments came about 10 days later, when forensic experts found blood in the van that Cesar Sena was driving. In this Toyota Hilux I've been talking about for a while, it is believed that with that vehicle, Cesar would have taken Cecilia's lifeless body from the house to the field in that vehicle, where they finally incinerated it. These traces of blood corresponded to human blood, but according to what was known on August 10th, unlike the one found in the house, this did not match Cecilia's maternal lineage. thus ruling out that it was her blood. One of the last pieces of evidence or clue that has emerged over the course of August, it had to do with the testimony of Fabiana Gonzalez, who was Marcela Acuna's right hand and one of the accused for covering up the crime. An investigation of both implicated parties' phones revealed that Cesar's mother communicated with her assistant, approximately 6 days after the crime, just hours after Marcela Eminenciano and Cesar gave statements to the prosecutor. The conversation, which is considered of interest and was attached to the case file, started as follows. Fabi, this is what Cesar declared. Memorize it. You, Gustavo, and Diana were going to nullify the testimony by saying you were nervous and got confused about some timings. In this message, she's referring to Gustavo Obregon and Diana Gonzalez, the sister of Fabiana Gonzalez, to whom she was sending the message. This conversation also includes the messages that Merenciano Sena exchanged with Gustavo Obregon, Fernanda's partner, at the time that the prosecutor's office established as the window in which the crime was committed, saying stay in touch with Cesar a lot when he arrives, stick with him and try to make him stay here. Nag him to stay because I suspect he's having some drama over there, you know? Take care of that of him, don't tell anyone about this, let it stay between you and me, only, see you. The important thing about these two messages is that the first one implies conscious attempts to manifest, to manipulate a person's testimony to cover up what happened. And the second indicates that Merenciano was aware of what was happening, regardless of whether he had anything to do with planning the crime or if he carried out the crime with his son. Beyond all those things, the least that message represents is that he knew what was happening. Therefore, these people are not innocent and were not persecuted for their political activism. They rather went to jail preventively because they had committed a crime and the prosecutor's office knew it. But if you are still not entirely convinced, look at the following messages. Let's go back to the conversation between Marcela and Fabiana, in which later on Acuna tells her right hand the following. I'm desperate. We have until 1930 to get that out of my house. The research groups believe that with that, Marcela Acuna was referring to Cecilia's body. All this new evidence is currently in the court file, which consists of more than 1,400 pages. In addition to physical clues, such as the burnt remains of Cecilia's backpack and wallet in the Sena's house, the Special Prosecutors Team, or EFE, has been taking statements from different people in the environment of the accused and the victim. As it is still an ongoing investigation, we do not have access to all the information that the different interviews may be providing, or to those who are being summoned to testify. But at the end of July, it emerged that among the various individuals summoned were those who had served as witnesses at Cecilia and Cesar's wedding. These are a 28-year-old woman, a friend of the victim, and a 19-year-old man close to the main suspect. Both recounted how the civil ceremony occurred on September 16, 2022. They recognized their signatures on the records of that ceremony, and of course they were questioned about the relationship between Cecilia and Cesar. Neither of them was aware that the couple had filed for divorce just 4 days after getting married. Cecilia's friend testified for approximately 45 minutes, and according to what Infobay newspaper said, she referred to the moment when her friend had asked her to be a witness to her wedding. She was surprised, as she had only been with Cesar for a few months. The most relevant thing that her testimony would have contributed had to do with the wedding party that was going to take place, the 23rd of December 2022, and for which a venue had already been reserved. Invitations had been sent to print and other arrangements were made. According to this witness, a few days before the party, her friend told her it was being cancelled for personal reasons, to which she did not allude. We don't know what they were. Let's remember that the divorce decree was finally issued on December 21st, 2022. So one of the prosecutor's hypotheses is that Cecilia was not aware of that she was going through a divorce process. The file would have been submitted without her consent, although this theory doesn't really make much sense because the divorce file submitted in September had both of their signatures. It becomes a bit strange that Cesar could open this file unilaterally. However, a signature can indeed be perfectly forged, and of course, this would make sense if Cesar had someone to do him such a favor. As for the male witness, he claimed to be Cesar's companion, at Technical School number 21, Manuel Belgrano, from which they both graduated in December 2022. He also claimed to have briefly worked at Cecilia's coffee shop, Black Cat, as mentioned in the previous video. During his 90-minute statement, he recounted his relationship with Caesar and Cecilia, similar to the previous witness. He even talked about the times he had gone to Lucina's house to do tasks and so on, remembering his friend's parents as good parents and a very close-knit family. From his testimony, no relevant information or any new data has been released at this time. One of the most interesting statements was from Maria Eugenia Alvarez Piccinini, Cecilia's psychologist, who was called to testify in mid-July. Before the prosecutor's office, the woman stated that Cecilia had started therapy due to problems with her partner, arising from the rejection of her in-laws towards her and the relationship they had. As the sessions progressed, Cecilia narrated situations of domestic violence by Cesar. She specifically recalled a situation of violence days before her last session, which occurred in the Toyota Hilux, which belonged to the main suspect. The psychologist is not the first to report Cecilia's domestic violence situations. The prosecutor's office obtained the testimony of a protected witness at the end of June. A friend of the victim who, under the nickname of Ciervo, also declared to know about these situations of violence. The last significant testimony that was made known was that of Gustavo Obregon, one of the 7 accused. On August 4th, he was again asked to clarify the audio that Menenciano had sent him using codes. It said the following: Gustavo, I'm gonna leave the Omicron thing for you in the lower clock where the lights are. That's where that will be for you. And you know where I'm gonna wake up today because I told you? What does the word Omicron mean in this context for these two people? What does it refer to?
The Omicron thing leaves you on the clock below where the lights are, that electricity thing. And do you know where? I'm gonna dawn today because I already told you. So is Caesar going to Colonia Elisa with Rita? So he's going to change the menu today and then he's going to come sleep here at home. So try to stay in touch with him so that when he arrives, he sticks with you. Do you know to stay here, whisper in his ear, let him stay, nibble that he's having some drama out there, you know? And take care of that, you know? Don't tell anyone that, you know? Let it stay between you and me only.
According to what Obregon declared, Omicron is a working group within Merenciano's team. The case is still an open investigation in the hands of the prosecutor's office, which is still collecting evidence and accusatory testimonies in order to build a strong case against the accused. Until the team of prosecutors concludes the investigation, we cannot know when the trial will take place. How many trials will there be? What kind of things can we expect? We don't know yet. What we can affirm is that it will be an oral and public trial, according to what the authorities said. There were 7 defendants in the case, as I mentioned earlier. All of them were arrested on June 9th, and since the 15th, they have been in preventive detention. Since the justice system considered that if they were free, the Senas could try to eliminate evidence or other ways to interfere with the investigation. Something that is quite obvious given that we have evidence that from the beginning they tried to get rid of certain elements. This decision for them to be in preventive detention is not irrevocable and can be appealed at the hearings intended for that. These took place in the early days of August and consisted of the defendants' defenses presenting their arguments as to why they should remove their preventive detention before a panel of judges. At the moment, one detail that seems important to me is that Cesar Sena has had 4 lawyers so far. They have been changing, we don't know exactly why, but he has had 4 lawyers. While this is not really relevant to the case or the investigation, on August 3rd, the day Cecilia would turn 29, her father, Miguel Strzyzowski, 53 years old, died of a heart attack in Chaco. Anyway, let's remember that Cecilia's father hadn't played a present role in her life for a long time. Let's remember that Cecilia's own mother said that he wasn't present and that he tried to charge for interviews. And he was in a way trying to turn his daughter's murder into a business. As for Gloria Romero, her struggle continues every day. In the past month, she met with President Alberto Fernandez and local authorities from Chaco. She also organized various demonstrations and marches in memory of her daughter and demanding justice. Marcela Acuña, mother of Cesar and one of the accused, has written more than 14 public letters, and they don't contribute much to all of this. In most of these letters, she implies that she is being tortured. for having to be separated from her family or for not being able to have contact with her son and husband. She insists that she and her husband are innocent political victims due to their position in Chaco and political activism. In addition, sometimes in these letters, she has demands like, for example, that they give her a hairdresser, which really is not relevant. Like her husband and son, she has been on a hunger strike for a couple of days for the same reasons I just told you. It is precisely in the middle of these letters where she declares that her son is guilty and that they have nothing to do with the crime. Gloria Romero, mother of Cecilia, reported to the media that she had received a text message stating the following: "We know you have another daughter." This is in reference to Angela Strzyzowski. Cecilia's aunt, Karina Gomez, was also threatened. She is the lawyer who pushed the case and had registered as a plaintiff. Who reported intimidations by Gloria Salazar? Who would be the Minister of Security and Justice of Chaco? In fact, she stated that she has been blocked from the digital entry system for writings, the INDI, and that while at home, she suffered power and internet outages. In addition to feeling watched and accompanied, among other updates, something I talked about a few months ago and that has been deepening is that the Sena clan was discovered to be involved in embezzlement of public funds, money laundering, and many other criminal activities. On August 15, one of Cecilia's mom's lawyers resigned. After resigning, he shared case details with the media, like the circulating version that Cesar Sena is not Veneciano's biological son. This could bring him benefits in the trial, as it's like saying there was no bond between them. And finally, the much-mentioned in Veneciano. Sena maintains his stance that he's a political prisoner and has nothing to do with the crime. It also seems that his health problems worsened after this hunger strike that they were doing as a family. As of today, this is all the information we have. It only confirms what we already thought. Which in a way is good, but it doesn't bring us much more progress. This is obviously a case of femicide. Can it be investigated further? But beyond that, besides, the culprits would be the Sena family, or as they are called, the Sena clan. So, well, that's as far as we go. As I tell you, that's all the information for today. Tell me what you think below in the comments. Here are the Patreons and the channel members. Thank you for supporting me through those means. And with nothing else to say, here's a new video, here is a recommended video. You can subscribe by clicking on my face and see you in another video. Goodbye.